I think hospitality, it's not easy, but it's simple. It's a couple key things beyond clean tables and good sequence of service. Make a table feel like they're not table five. Have an interaction with them, understand why they're here. Unprompted actions and anticipation, I think, makes such an experience because then as a guest, you feel seen. And that's what you want a restaurant, especially a restaurant that I think that's full. If your server or your som comes and make a move before you even prompted, oh my God, they're actually paying attention. It's amazing. And that's what you're paying for, especially if you're paying, we're a destination restaurant. We're not cheap. So you expect to feel something more than just, I'm ordering food, I'm getting the food, I'm getting the check. That's not enough anymore.
Hey everyone, welcome to Tasting Notes Toronto. I'm Alex Abbott-Boyd. In this episode, I sit down with Christian Perreault-Hamel, wine director at Harbour 60 and winner of the 2024 Best Ontario Sommelier Competition. Christian shares his experience building Harbour 60's 25,000 bottle wine program, his favorite ways to personalize wine service for guests, his experience prepping for the Master Sommelier exam and competitions, as well as his own journey from the arts into wine and hospitality. If you're curious what it takes to run one of Canada's most ambitious wine programs and build a life in wine, you won't want to miss this episode. Christian, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
To kick things off, could you share just a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how you found your way into wine and hospitality?
Sure thing. So my name is Christian Perreault-Hamel. I am the wine director at Harbour 60 Steakhouse and Ariana Restaurant. I am also the owner of Pelican Wine Imports, and I do a bit of consulting as well on the side. How did I get into wine? It was a kind of a fallback situation. So originally I'm trained as an artist. I went to fine art school. I was a painter. I tried to give it a shot for a hot minute. Turns out nobody tells you that art doesn't pay. I had to supplement my art with working at bars. My ex-brother-in-law used to own a bunch of bars in Montreal. My sister got me a job through there. I was started as a bar back, built my way to a bartender at a beer bar. Ended up working at an Irish pub where for the first time I was working with seasoned hospitality professionals. And these guys were geeking out about scotch, about beer, provenance, flavors. And I never realized you could geek out about beverage. For me, it was just drinking. I was 19, 20 at a time.
What was the name of that bar?
It was called the McCarroll's in Montreal in Côte des Neiges. For those who knows, anybody who's been to University of Montreal, they know that pub very well. If you go to Montreal, it's a little bit out of the way. It's not downtown, but definitely worth a visit. And the kitchen is phenomenal. I love pub food. So working with these guys kind of made me realize that, okay, you can be proficient at beverage. I'm like, okay, that's cool. So I was kind of at the crossroad. I was turning almost 22 at the time. And I figured, like, I got to do something with my life. The culinary school in Montreal is a very, very good school, the ETHQ. So I went there to study management. Wine was not, I wasn't drinking wine. Wine was not a thing at all. I go to study management. In management class, of course, you learn that beverage is how you make a living. Like restaurants are good, but you got to sell beverage. So I started dabbing a little bit. I do my intro and my certified sommelier. I dab a little bit into it, but wine is very intimidating. And at the time, still today, Quebec has such a strong sommelier scene that it was a bit intimidating.
So how did you go about learning when you were doing intro and certified?
Couple books. Like is one guy, I used to work at this restaurant that was actually in the building of the culinary school called Éric Chevrier. He was the som over there, and he's the one who took a liking to me and decided, I'm going to make you a wine guy. And he would pour me wines, tell me where it's from, what's the name of the grape, how did it make it. And at first I was just like, it's a red wine, it's a white wine. I was like, I didn't make a difference. And he really got into my case, and eventually something clicked. And yeah, it gave me a couple of resources, and the internet was great.
Yeah.
And I was really just wiggling my way. I passed probably my certified with like barely with a passing grade. Like I didn't do well. Then I get hired and I moved to France as a cost controller for a big hotel chain hotel over there in Pullman. And that's where I started. First of all, wine in France, the good wines are actually affordable. So I could go grab just a head of lettuce at the grocery store and be like, oh, there's like more going for €5. I'm like, okay, grab all of that as well. And at home with the roommates, open bottles and drink. You can buy wine on eBay, which was phenomenal because I didn't know German wines at the time. I'd be like, oh, an old Riesling from the 80s for $20. Right? Oh, we'll try that. And then you try a bunch of things and you kind of slowly get into it. Start hanging out with French sommeliers as well. And you listen to them talk and you're like, that's cool. Yeah. So I do my level 3 WSET in France. And then when I leave France, when my contract expires, I move to the US. And that's when I forgot about the MS by then. Then moving back to the US, that's when some of my reps are advanced. You hear about Masters. The son I was working with, Sam Fisher's from Montreal. Shout out to him.
What were you doing in the US?
I was a food and beverage director for a small high-end restaurant in Massachusetts. Again, with wine, but not 100%. Looking back, I remember some of the bottles we were moving and I didn't appreciate what they were. Looking back today, I'm like, yeah, we'd sold DRC sometimes. And then my son had to explain to me how much of a big deal DRC is. Which I'm like, yeah, they're expensive. And they're like, no, listen, like DRC is DRC. And I was like, okay, cool. So it kind of get me excited.
Yeah, when I did the advanced class and I was getting to know the somms from all over the US, it was basically how they tried to establish their credibility was how many bottles of DRC they sell a year.
Which we can talk about in a minute, but I see in my mind a curve of excitement for labels goes up when you're a green somm, and eventually it just fades away a little. Because if you're a real car guy, you're excited about Ferrari and Lamborghinis. And then as you mature, you're like, no, I like a vintage Aston Martin. I like those kind of more niche cars. And you get a little bit more toned down in your flavors, I feel. And I think that's how a lot of people progress at first is, oh, I'm selling Mouton. Like, great, Mouton's a phenomenal house. The wines are objectively phenomenal. But now I'm more excited about sending obscure Grenache from the Sierra Gredos in Spain or Japanese wine or stuff like that. But yeah, so coming back from Massachusetts, I'm back to Montreal, do my events, move to Toronto and meet all these phenomenal somms. Toronto has been such a great scene for me. From the start, people welcome me, open arms, tasting groups, study groups, masters actively involved. Like it's been a phenomenal scene for me. And yeah, I've just been growing since.
And so I know you worked in Au Pied de Couchant in Montreal. So how does that fit into this timeline that you just laid out?
2018, I leave my job in Massachusetts. This place is no longer, it was quite chaotic. It was great for the food and the wine, but I'm not going to talk ill of the place, but every manager has walked out for stolen wages and stuff. So we all leave, move back to Montreal because that's my visa was associated with that place. So I had to move back to Canada. And funny enough, I think the week I moved back, I actually reconnect with Eric Chevrier, the gentleman who got me into wine. And we go to this place called Chez Loïc in Montreal, for those who remember Chez Loïc, a great place. And we're just partying a couple of days before New Year's, between Christmas and New Year's. And we meet with Florent, which is now the GM at Joe Beef. But he was a GM at Pied Cochon back then. And we just talk and he's like, what are you doing in town? And no, I'm just coming back. I'm going to look for some work. I'm like, fuck, come next week. I need a server / somm. And I'm like, cool. That's it. It was over drinks one night.
That's incredible because it's such an iconic institution. What was it like to be there? What was the energy like? What kind of wines were you serving?
When I got started studying, like when I started restaurants and I started getting to the restaurant scenes, even before the wine scenes. First of all, I was studying with Michael Picard, which is Martin's nephew, who's now co-owner and runs the kitchen at Au Pied de Cochon in Montreal. We were studying together, and I remember just thinking that restaurant was, can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah.
The restaurant was a shit. And I always looked up to the craziness. You look at the dish they're making, and you're like, how are you selling this? And people get excited. To this day, I don't see a restaurant, at least in Canada, that does the audacity of the dishes that they're doing.
Can you give an example of one of those?
My favorite special was always a pig's head. So it's going to gross a lot of people, but it's a whole pig head that they would cook in the wood oven, then deep fry in duck fat. And then they would serve it with a lobster coming out of its mouth on a bed of mashed potatoes with rapinis on like a silver or wood slab. And you just put it on the table, and you just eat it from the head. You eat the cheeks, the snout, everything is crispy. Sounds gross. It is so good.
Oh, my goodness.
So good. And then what I love working there is you'd walk to a table and chef goes, I got 2 pig's head tonight. We know we're going to fight because we know everybody will want it. You go to a table of 10 guys, be like, hey, yeah, tonight I got a pig's head. It's $250, feed 6 people. This is how we prepare it. And then you explain the dish and everybody goes, what? Sure. Like they don't even comprehend what you're explaining to them. What's the stuffed pied cochon was one of my favorites as well. It was a pig's foot that is stuffed with foie gras, breaded, deep fried with, I think it was jamon iberico on top. And again, sitting on mashed potatoes. It was like such rich. The reputation back then was that you would have a heart attack by the end of the meal, which is true, but that food was phenomenal. And finally, I think, I should remember so many dishes. Mikael, I hope you're still doing those crazy dishes. We did a fried chicken, hot chicken. So the hot chicken sandwich with the gravy and the green peas, but with fried chicken. But the fried chicken was just the perfect crunch. It was a phenomenal dish.
Wow.
And yeah, just it was opulence and ridiculous. And I think people are maybe a little bit more health conscious, and you can't get away with such richness anymore, which is good. At the same time, it was so fun.
Yeah.
And it was a bit chaotic. And I've stood on tables pouring Calvados down people's mouths sometimes. And they were very much about hospitality by breaking the rules. There was no préséance. There was no like, oh, the things have to be perfect. It was just make people feel good. Get them food that when you put it down the table, they go, what is this? Like, you shock value a little bit. And that was fun.
It sounds like such a special place. What led you to want to leave and come to Toronto?
So it was out of my control. There was a virus that came out of China. And then the restaurant closed down. So that's why I left. I left Pelican when they closed down for COVID. So I had to find something else.
And what, of all the places you came to Toronto?
Toronto was not on my list. It was definitely not on my list. Nothing against it. It's just I was ignorant of what was happening in Toronto. It was not even on my radar. I was thinking to move back to the States. I was looking to going to school in Germany. Geisenheim offers free education. I wanted to maybe study wine marketing and be like, okay, well, if the restaurant gig is not happening, what can I pivot? But then I meet somebody who at the time was studying at UFT. And then when the university starts hinting at we might be reopening January of 2021, we can't make a decision like, what are we doing? And I didn't have anything going on. It was COVID. So I mean, screw it, I'll roll the dice. We'll move to Toronto. And yeah, I just moved in an apartment, sight unseen. She did all the work. I just drove us here on January 2nd, 2021.
And you ended up working at Pompette.
That's correct.
How long did it take to connect with them? And how did that come to be?
I think how I started working at the restaurant Pompette was the perfect reassurance that Toronto was the right city for me. I came in, I didn't know anybody. It was back when we did all these virtual tastings, right? You would go to a wine shop, bottle vials with your mask, come back home, and then you taste with 17 strangers on the computer. And you get your, I remember it was like $2,000 a month, whatever it is. So I budgeted it. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to allow $400 for buying wine tasting because I know exams are coming up. And then I discovered this place called Some Factory, which, boom, right there, it was such the convergence for everybody who knows Some Factory. That's where all the Soms would go. That's like the meeting place, the agora of the Soms in Toronto. So I see they're doing some kind of tasting, whatever it was, Burgundy, whatever. So I'm like, okay, cool. I buy it online. I go to pick it up. And when I go to pick it up, there's a couple people there also waiting to pick up their wines. And when I come in, they look at me and they're like, we don't know you. You're a fresh face. The Som team in Toronto was very akin with one another, and I was a fresh face. So they right away been like, all right, you're new. Are you working? I'm like, I'm from the industry. And then we just chat a little bit. And I will be looking for work at some point. If you guys know anybody, I don't know where to go. I don't know what restaurants here, like where should I go? I was talking with a couple restaurant groups at the time, but I didn't have any idea where I was going to go. So one of them says, there's these, you speak French, these French guys open a restaurant right before COVID called Pompette. You should check it out. One of the owners is the best sommelier of France. The other one's a meilleur ouvrier de France bartender. You should check it out. I'm like, oh, great. So I reach out on Instagram, just cold reach out, like, hey,
DM on Instagram.
I slid in their DMs and I'd be like, I know everything is closed right now. This is who I am. Whenever you guys reopen, I'd love to meet for an interview. And they just went, why don't you come on by? Let's chat and see if we vibe and see if we can find you something. So I show up. There's no titles or anything. It's just, let's get a vibe of each other and see if we can do something with you. So we meet, we chat about wine, we chat a little bit, we vibe right away. They do think it's funny the way I speak because I'm Quebecois and they're French, of course. And then at the time, they just got a lease on a new spot a couple doors down from the restaurant called Bar Pompette. But Bar Pompette was not a thing back then. They got offered, hey, you guys want a bar? And they're like, we thought about getting one, why not? So at the time, it was still the old bar there. And they obviously wanted to offer me something, but the restaurant was not open. So they're like, are you handy? I'm like, I'm decent. For the first maybe couple months, I just helped Hugo, Tony, which was one of their associates for the bar, just repaint and fix the bar a little bit, whatever we could do while COVID was going on. And that's just how I started working at Pompette.
It's great that they're able to give you work in the time when they couldn't even be open.
I'm very grateful. They offered so much, and working at Pompette was also a very pivotal place for me to meet all the wine people that I know in the city today.
Yeah. So when Pompette reopened, what was your role?
I try to remember the timeline that it went, but I think they hired me as a server, which I was like, I'll take any job, really. I wanted to work there. So I think I did a shift as a server, and they go, really, we need a general manager. And you kind of fit the bill. So I'm like, okay. Yeah, I think to this day, I don't know if it was a test or it just happened. This guy can take a little bit more. Let's give it a little bit
Yeah.
more.
And at that point, were you certified? Were you advanced? Where were you in kind of the?
I was certified because the advanced have been on hold for the whole COVID. I did the advanced class because you have to do like a seminar before your exam a couple of years before. So I did that right before COVID, went through COVID studying for advancce, and then took the advanced in, I want to say 2021, maybe 22, but yeah. And that's the year that I took the advanced. And I got lucky. It was the last year that you had to take tasting, service, and theory in one shot. And either you get all three or you start over. And I passed it on the first try, which kind of scared me a little bit because I went in thinking, I'm just going to check it out, see how it feels, study for it and come back stronger. And then I'll be ready for the masters. And now I just show up, pass it. They're like, cool, you're going to masters now. I'm like, shit, I'm not ready for this. Yeah. So it was fun.
That's awesome. So what are some of your favorite memories of working at Pompette?
Ooh, the way that restaurant evolved. Pompette has had a couple iterations since until the time we get to publish this podcast. Restaurant Pompette was their first iteration. It became Pompette. And I believe in a couple of weeks, if not a month, they're going to become Allegro, which is a new concept. But Restaurant Pompette, originally, when we started, it was a lot of cold dishes and kind of more of a wine bar vibe. And the way it felt is Martine, which was at the kitchen, phenomenal cook, she would come up with a couple creative dishes, specials, and those specials did very well. So eventually we expanded the menu. The wine list had, I'm going to say, I don't remember exactly, maybe 100, 150 SKUs. We slowly, with Jonathan, the owner who was the best sommelier of France, expanded it to almost 400 or 500 wines. Like we slowly saw that the people were looking for these things. There was a big boom post-COVID, right? So we rode that wave hard. And started having very cool wines, a mix of classic and natural. The food was much more creative. Martine had a lot of fun creating those classic dishes that I went to one of their last nights before they closed down for the new concept. And the snails and gnocchi with the butter was just phenomenal dish. The bone marrow and tartare, like all these kind of classic dishes stuck. And it was fun to have these dishes come out and see how well they took off and fitting up the restaurant. And it was really kind of went from a neighborhood restaurant to a big destination. Then we started winning a couple of awards. We won the Air Canada Best New Fine Dining in 2022, I think. What other? We got Michelin recommended. Yeah, we got a couple of things in the spotlight. It was a fun, small team. The team was good. All these guys were so professionals and fun and mostly French. Not by design, just that I think we French vibe with other French. So we vibed all together. We all tolerated the French humor, which on my team today, they can tell it's a bit annoying, but I like it. A lot of play on the words and dad jokes. Okay. Yeah, it was a good time. It was a really good time.
That's awesome. And so you were the GM and one of the wine buyers?
I was one of the wine buyers. Jonathan is always the factor, the wine guy for the restaurant, but I also had a bit of fun with the wine program as well.
Okay. And am I remembering right? I feel like there was like some really great theatrical things that you guys were doing there with like port tongs and...
Yes. I'm a big port tong guy. I love theatrics when I see it. Maybe it's the romantic or whatever it is, but one day, I don't know who started it. It wasn't me or Jonathan's. I think I brought port tongs back from Portugal. And we started doing some port tongs, but we would run in the kitchen, stick the port tongs in the piano. I don't know what you call it in English, where all the pots are. So the kitchen guys are working. I'm like, can you move like a pot so I can put these tongs in? And it was very inconvenient. But we'd like open bottles with port tongs. Those who don't know is you heat up a pair of tongs until they're red hot, put them to the neck of the bottle, and then with something cold, we use a badger for shaving. You create a kind of a heat difference, and then the glass just breaks, which is an old-fashioned way of opening old bottles of port when you know you just can't get the cork out. And then we started messing about and figure out that you can do that on champagne. And the difference with champagne is that you get pressure in the bottle so that when you do it, the cork pops up and then you just catch it. Wow. The catching part took a minute, but it was very theatric and it was very fun. Now looking back, it was dangerous because it was a small restaurant.
You get insurance for opening champagne?
No. I'm going to tell a story that was funny, and maybe they wouldn't want me to tell that story, but we get a very famous world-class sommelier coming for dinner one night. Big table. There's a couple local master sommeliers. It's a big table of like wine guys and on the patio in the summer. And we used to do that champagne port on things. Me and Jerome, the other guy I was working with for the wine over there, I would do it in tandem. One does the tongue, one catches it. Like, it was like coordinated. It was cool. And then we roll out that little table. We do the port tongs on some bubbles. I think it was an old Peter Lauer, like 1985 because he does late disgorgement, bubbles, champagne style from the Mosel in Germany, great wines. And yeah, we roll at a table, we do the port tongs. I hit it. Jerome goes to catch it. It falls, cuts his arm, starts bleeding everywhere. We're just like, pretends all is good, roll away. It was so embarrassing, but it was funny at the same time. I think he's still got a scar to this day.
Wow.
So don't do it at home. It's super dangerous, but it's pretty cool.
How did that table respond?
I think the Somm in question, the Star Somm, was a little bit like, that is so dangerous. Like they were not cool with it. I don't know. I should ask her. Yeah. Well, we had a lot of fun times and experimenting and trying new service theatrics and revisiting classic French dishes because we're all like geeks about French culture and French culinary culture, and it was fun.
It sounds like a great time.
Yeah, it was a great time. It was fun.
Could you share a little bit about what led to the current role? So right now we are sitting in Harbour 60 where you're the wine director.
That's great.
How did you end up here and what were you hired to do? What was the mission when you came on board?
Very interesting. Full disclosure, I've never been to Harbour 60 before. I met them for the job. My first restaurant job, I'm just going to go back for a second. When I left that pub to go to culinary school, my first restaurant job, that was in bar job, was a server assistant at a steakhouse in Montreal called La Queue de Cheval. For those who know, very chaotic, but very successful steakhouse. I tend to work in chaotic places. And now it's funny because I haven't worked in a steakhouse since. I've worked in small neighborhood restaurant. I've worked some fine dining. I've worked more classic. And steakhouses were not on my radar per se. When I left Pompette, when they changed the concept in 2024. Yeah. And I was looking for a new opportunity. I've been there almost 4 years. I'm like, okay, it's my time to do something else. I do believe that you have to move around and experience new things and work with new people. I was approaching a certain Michelin star restaurant in the city as a floor somm. I wanted to focus on studying, no responsibility, just go on the floor, do what I do, and keep it a little bit more simple. And then there's a consultant who works for Harbour 60 called Alexander Powell, who's a recent Master Sommelier. They were in a quest of looking for a wine director, sorry. And my name came up in conversation. So one day I'm on my way to get to a barber. And I remember I was walking Harbour Street. And then he calls me and says, hey, would you be interested in overtaking this whole wine program for a steakhouse? I was like, I don't know, man. I just want to focus on studying and just clock and clock out and just open bottles and chill and take some break. And you should take the meeting. So I'm like, okay. In my mind, steakhouses were all about American wines, maybe big house champagne. I had a very kind of stereotypical ideas of what steakhouses wanted to do with their wine program. And I was not so interested really. But Alex knew what the owners here at Nicholas had in mind, the vision they had at Harbour 60. So he's the one who says, take the meeting. I'm like, all right, I trust you, I'll take the meeting. And what they were talking about is they saw that there's a boom of steakhouse in Toronto. For those who know, there's maybe 5 steakhouse by 5-10 minute walk from Harbour 60, all downtown. Yeah. Very good steakhouses too. The competition is very steep and they all offer something different. But in the end, steakhouses is a concept that's how far can you go, right? It's steaks and you have to have your classic side. So how do you make a difference? You make a difference in experience or you make a difference in also your beverage offering. And they want to do something different. They wanted somebody who was going to get away from the classic steakhouse direction that this place had traditionally. And I believe it was the restaurant director, Jeremy, who came to Pompette once or twice also. And I served them not knowing who he is. So when we get into the meeting, he's, yes, I remember you. We vibed a little bit right away. And then they talk about the idea. Of course, very ambitious project. We have 500 seats, almost 5 floors of operation, like it's a massive thing. So they want a massive wine program. Yeah. But by massive wine program, there's only so much California and border you can buy. So you have to expand. And that's where I got given the freedom of expanding and basically building a program that has the goal of having wines from everywhere in every styles at every price point.
Okay.
Now we're not there yet, but we're working on that. But everything is expensive now as well. So trying to make it more approachable. Now, funny enough, everywhere I meet, people say, oh my God, Harbour 60 is so expensive. They're all expensive, but we try to keep the markup. We look at what I'll tell you right away. We'll look at what certain ones that we buy, how much the people across the street are selling it, and be like, okay, we'll price it just below that. So we try to stay on par with at least the market and break that idea of you're not going to get value. There's a way of getting value. It's not going to be cheap. You're going to get value. We definitely brought more organic producers to the list. I'm not a biggest fan of talking organic at the table. I think it steals from focusing on for me, what's important was the wine taste like. If you go to the table and all you talk about is organic, biodynamic, and the sheeps in the land, I'm like, cool, but how's the wine? But at the same time, when you're paying a good amount of money for food, for wine, some things come with, of course, like if I go to the 3 Michelin star in Japan, I don't need them to tell me, oh, it's a fresh cut of the day from the best. I'm like, I would hope so. So if you're selling great quality wines, you should definitely focus on producers that work in a sustainable way, that the wines are made honestly. And I think that kind of goes without saying. So personally, I don't like to spend a lot of time talking at the table about these kind of things, but all that to say, our champagne list went from big house forward to about 70% grower champagne that works in sustainable fashion. We have almost 500 SKUs of champagne. I love champagne. And we love to focus on sort of Bouchard, Beverage.
It's the Brut Nature.
The Brut Nature, which ironically now it's too late to change it. I can't change it anymore because it's too used, but I'm drinking less and less Brut Nature. I'll get a Brut Renaissance going in my life right now. I like my dosage a little bit. I like the Brut style champagne. I'm going back to that. But yeah, we work with emerging region. I talk all the time about Japan. I love what's happening in Japan right now. Canary Islands, wines from Vignatigo, wines from Invinate. I love these wines. Spain's ability to sell Spain and Portugal is one of the last bastion of very high value for very high quality.
Yeah.
These are wines that are also selling very well here. And luckily I got a team that is also very geek about all these things and they love to play with these wines. And the good thing about a steakhouse is people are here for comfort and they're not, some people are very sticky about like pairings, but most people are like, we're getting steaks. What big red should we get? And then great. Have you ever had wines from the Douro? Like, I have no idea what the Douro is, but perfect. They're open-minded as long as you respect their budget and the wine is great. Like you can have fun and make them discover something new. And especially now with the American ban, people asking us, I like Napa Cab. I can get a Napa Cab. What should I get? I'm like, perfect, cool. And now they have no preconception of anything because I don't expect everybody to be so well-versed about wine. That's why we're here. If everybody knew everything about wine, I didn't have a job. So our job is to be like, cool, that's the one thing. I'll give you something that's going to make you satisfied, but that maybe from a country you never heard of or with a story that's interesting and people are surprisingly receptive.
Yeah. Have you found that over 2025 as first the ban was put in place and then it's stuck around and so probably whatever American wines you had have started to be drunk, are people more and more open?
100%.
Compared to how they were before, because a lot of people can be set in their ways and they know what they like.
100%.
But it sounds like you're finding people being very open-minded, which is exciting.
Yes, people are coming around, but we see a lot of that clientele that beyond that, they love their brands. They love their J-Lore, they love their cake bread, and that's fine. That's their particular brand that they enjoy because it tastes the way they enjoy. You're paying for it. You should get what you want. Now, as we slowly had less and less, and then, 86 J-Lore across all the grapes and all the regions, we're like, all right, cool. So for us as Soms, it was fun because great. You give a bit of limitation. Okay, how does this wine taste? What is an alternative that works? We can talk about Australia. I know you love Australia. Australia's been a great partner for that. South America, surprisingly, didn't sell as much as I thought. I thought South America was the next bastion because a lot of people know Napa Cab, but they also know Malbec, for instance.
Yeah.
And it has the same intensity and the price is there. And we still sell a decent amount of South American wine, but they're not the automatic response of people who drink American wine who go, okay, I'm just going to go more south.
Yeah.
People are much more open to get Australia, or a lot of people surprisingly made the switch to Super Tuscan.
Oh.
I'm not sure how that happened. Maybe it was just a matter of culture. Maybe because, okay, I know Tuscany makes good wine. I'm going to go there.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of that.
Was there any kind of budget you can share that you were given? How much money have you spent on wine in the last year and a half?
I'd rather not share that, but I can tell you it's a privilege. Like I got very privileged. When I started buying, we had, so from September to March before we opened, so it was almost like 6 months, that we went from almost zero wines because we had a big flood in the summer of 2024. There was a big flood and all the wines were in storage in the basement. They got flooded. So we had to start over. In a sense, it's a tragedy because we lost some very phenomenal bottles. The other way, it's kind of a blank slate, which is fun, exciting. I'll never have that opportunity again to buy this much wine from scratch with a vision, but at the same time, being conscious that this is a business. I need to make this profitable. I need to cater to the needs of the guest. It's not about what I want. It's about the experience they're going to get. But at the same time, getting the idea of, I'm also going to try to introduce them to new things. So I bought certain maybe regions, just a little bit, and I'll bring to the table and see how they really respond. And you see the reception and you adapt it, because you got to listen to the people. But at the same time, you can't just buy what people are asking, because people don't know everything. And it's fun to have a couple of your own wines and be like, hey, you have a regular who comes and drinks kind of same thing all the time. And one day you go, can I open something for you to try? And if you don't like it, you don't have to buy it. It's like, that's fine. And then they're pleasantly surprised, and it's fun. And I think if you go to restaurants, especially if you're a regular, it's fun for your service staff, whether it's in food or wine or bars, to be like, hey, I'm kind of getting a sense of what you're liking. Can I suggest something for you? And like, amazing. It's a customized experience. I don't go much to bars, but I would love the few bar experience that I've had that were great is bartenders goes, let me make something for you. Not quite, no consultation, just I get a good feel of you. Let me run something by you. And 100% of the time I always go, this is great.
That's actually what got me into, say, alcoholic beverages. Yeah. There was this incredible bar in New York 15 years ago called Milk and Honey. It was a hidden bar. You literally needed to get the email address to make a reservation. If no one gave you the email address, you weren't going there. It was like 6 tables. And there was no menu. You just had a conversation and then you were given a drink. And it blew my mind of how good hospitality could be and how well paired a drink could be to a guest. That got me hooked.
I think hospitality, that might be a bit of a broader topic, but hospitality, it's not easy, but it's simple. It's a couple key things beyond clean tables and good sequence of service. Make a table feel like they're not table 5.
Yeah.
Have an interaction with them, understand why they're here, make them go, hey, I've noticed you've done this. Can we do this for you? It's something as silly as their napkin is all dirty, like unprompted actions and anticipation, I think makes such an experience. Because then as a guest, you feel seen. And that's what you want at a restaurant, especially a restaurant that's full. If your server or your som comes and make a move before you even prompted, oh my God, they're actually paying attention. It's amazing. And that's what you're paying for, especially if you're paying, we're a destination restaurant. We're not cheap. So you expect to feel something more than just, I'm ordering food, I'm getting the food, I'm getting the check. That's not enough anymore.
No.
You need to do a little something. And again, it doesn't have to be free drinks. It doesn't need to be costing money. It's just about attention, empathy, and anticipation and unprompted action. I think that's where it's at. And as a som, we have so many opportunities. It can be just as you're serving the wine, you hear the table talk about, oh, should we get this dish or this dish? And you share that information with your server, and the server can later circle back and they're like, how did you know? Because you got to communicate with your team. Like, it's such a fun game. Yeah. It's a fun game that makes people happy.
Yeah. It's all about connection, right?
100%. You want to connect with people. I don't know if I would call them friends, but I have so many people I'm in touch with that just because I serve them at a table once and we found each other on Instagram and we've been sending each other memes, or we're just like, they send me balls. Hey, what do you think of this? I've talked to the person once in my life and we've been chatting for years now.
Yeah.
And it's fun because you connect, and I don't do that with my mechanic. I don't do that with the bank teller, but you do it with a hospitality professional because you connect in a different way, and that's very fun.
A good hospitality
professional, of course.
No. So to take a step back just to the wine program here, how many bottles deep is the list now?
So as of December, when we just did the inventory, we have about 3,600 different SKUs on the list, spanning from every country we can try to find. I have a few countries I'm still short of. I don't have any Brazil, notably. What are we missing? I don't have any Brazil. I'm almost out of Uruguay. What countries are we missing? But anyways, we have great stuff.
Do you have any Bolivia?
Bolivian? No, I've actually looked for, I couldn't find any Bolivian on the market.
Yeah, I've had some good Bolivian Tanat, but I've never seen it here. I got that in the US.
I want some Singani, which is a product from Bolivia as well. That's hard to get. But yeah, that's geeky, but it's fun. But yeah, 3,600 ref across the board, about 25,000 bottles in the building. The storage was the most hardest, tedious part. Is how do you organize that much wine across 5 floors? Actually 6 floors. No, 7 floors, because the basement as well. So we have, 6 floors with storage, and then there's some storage in a private room on the basement. So we have to spread and organize it in a way that if the guest on the 4th floor asks for a bottle that's in the basement, you can get that bottle. Our standard is less than 5 minutes from order. By the time they get ordered the bottle, at least you get that bottle in 5 minutes. Unless there's like a problem, you can find it, but you should be able to not be lost. And it took us a couple of months. The first few months with the team was rough. We tried to organize a certain way, didn't work. We had to reorganize the whole building. The whole team was exhausted of just moving wine left and right. But we finally got a good system. I have very, very organized staff members on my team as well. They're all ex-wine directors or wine managers. So I'm very grateful. I have a very solid team. And they have great ideas, and they've done a great job with the program.
Okay. And I understand that it might be a little different than normal times if you were able to buy American wine, but I'd just be really curious how it breaks out in terms of what people are buying. Is it mostly bigger reds since it's a steakhouse? But you mentioned all that champagne. What's working really well? What categories are maybe struggling a little bit?
Struggling, I would say whites that are not neutral and mineral. People that come to steakhouses sometimes have a pre-idea of what they want, which that's what they want. I'm not going to go against that. I'm not going to take them away from their wine. I'm just going to try to cater it as best as I can. But a lot of people come in and they order seafood for starters, and they'll get steaks for main. They might start with Pinot Grigio or something fresh. Champagne comes in. And then for the steak, they want, yes, a red with a bit of shoulder, a bit of structure. And then when you have conversation with them, sometimes people are a bit more open. Can you recommend just a red that's going to go with this? And then we can argue with them. It's a leaner cut, maybe not so much tannin needed. And then you can bring them to like nice Grenache or certain Pinots from certain part of the world. They're great. Like you can, and as long as you come to the table, explain to them why you think it's working, just give them a taste.
Yeah.
If we do a suggestion, they're welcome to say yes or no once they try it. So there's no pressure. And that's really the last thing you want as a guest is be put under the spot of, I'm suggesting a wine, but if you don't like it, it's on you. They're like, no, I don't want that. Yeah, I would say anything that's more rounder. So like more expressive wines, more aromatic wines, dramatic styles of wines. I love Rieslings, Sylvaners, Murtergaus, all these kind of grapes that we have sells a little bit, but they're not definitely the de facto. When you get a table that goes, can we talk about Riesling? All my sons goes, yes, please. I think that's not news. Bigger, rounder style of wine. I thought that those oakier, rounder Chardonnays would kill on the steakhouse wine list. I think they've been burned by some broader, more generic style of California Chardonnays, which is a shame because some California Chardonnays definitely rub shoulders with some of the best Burgundies. Great examples of them, at least. And it's a shame, like you look at Argentinian. I was in Argentina a couple months ago, and the Chardonnays they're doing over there. Oh my God. Yeah. White Bones, Winestones from Zapata, the El Enemigo, they do Chardonnay on the floor like in Jura. And the price it's killer. Like these wines are phenomenal, and yet it's a hard sell.
A hard sell. So what are the easy sells?
Pinot Grigio, number one, for sure. Pinot Grigio, people don't even care about the producer or the origin. They're just, Pinot Grigio, it's under $100. Amazing.
Yeah.
What's fun is sometimes people just describe, I just want a crisp, dry white. Perfect. Then I'll bring in kosher from Japan. I can bring Gruner from Austria. You can bring anything, and people are actually surprisingly open. They're like, great, can I try it? And if you're not, tell me about the wine. And people are very open. So these are definitely selling. Big reds, look at, again, Super Toscans, Brunellos, Barolo Barbaresco. I think people know the name, really. I don't think they're always the best pairing for certain cuts of steaks that we have, but people just love them. Yeah. California for what we have left. Cabernets, period. People love cabs, like cabs all day. It doesn't really matter where it's from sometimes. So that's where actually it was a good segue for us to bring more Canadians. Because I think Canada was also a great substitute for America. And look at certain producers like Bench with La Brunante or other Bordeaux blends was a great substitute for a price. Also, Rose from British Columbia, great option as well. And I think that they understood what was happening because they offered a lot of back vintage and different vineyards, and we can build that wine list. Now we're edging on 300 SKUs of Canadian wine. We want to bring it up to a little bit higher. But yeah, Canada has been great. And the value is still 100% there. Yesterday, we did a great tasting with Thomas Batchelder. We tasted through the whole lineup. For those who know how Thomas tastes, you don't taste like a handful of bottle. You taste more wines that I tasted in months in volume. And the value is there, and the wines are phenomenal. It's just people are going to get over that hump of maybe they've been burned with more generic examples of Canadian wine, and they're like, it's not for me. When in reality, what's happening in Canada is very exciting.
Yeah, I feel like the quality in the last decade has just skyrocketed.
100%. My favorite thing to do is I try to go to France at least once a year, and I bring Canadian wines of similar styles of the estate I'm going to go visit, and I gift them. And every time, like especially when we hung out with all the Alsace guy from La Dive Bouteille a couple of years ago, we brought some Portmore sets. And people were like, oh, cool, Canadian wine. Thanks, it's a novelty. And then we started popping a bunch of bottles one night. It got a bit out of control. And when that promo set started going around, we had producers kind of go, well, hold on, what was the bottle? And they were like, give me that. That's very good. And they were surprised because people come with the French, especially, comes with maybe lower expectations of what Canada is. Oh, that's cute. You guys are making wine.
Yeah.
And then they taste and they go, hold on, what's happening here? They won't admit that it's great, but they're like, it's pretty good. So it's fun. It's always fun to bring Canadian wine abroad and show it off a little bit.
100%. Yeah. And especially if this trade war is just making people more open to it here. I feel like that's often the biggest obstacle is just people here who were burned.
100%. And yeah, again, because we can buy American wine, you can shoot the etch a sketch and you start from scratch and it's fun.
Yeah. You mentioned when the owners were thinking about the refresh they did of Harbour 60, they wanted to make one of the big differentiators, the beverage program. I'd be so curious between, say, like food and beverage in terms of the percent sales, and then maybe even within beverage, is it like, how are cocktails doing? How is beer doing? How is non-alc doing? Is it mostly wine, or is it a lot of those other things too?
I believe historically Harbour 60 was more of a spirit dominant. People would come here a lot for cocktails, for bottle service, and it's still very prominent here. The wines, again, I wasn't here before, so I'm not going to talk about the performance of before, but wines and cocktail and beverage are pretty much on par in sales. Some nights it's give and take. We'll sell a DRC one night. We'll smash a cocktail because boom, couple grand just got added to the whole thing. But yeah, I would say easily a quarter of the sales is wines, which is great.
Yeah.
You want those beverages from both bar and wine to do well because that's your margins in the restaurant. And that's where our job comes to be very important, is as much as we can have fun finding the cool producers and showing them off on Instagram, it has to be profitable, but finding that balance where it's a good value for the guest, but you're also making the margins that you owe to ownership. Because in the end, it's their money. They're paying me so that I can make them money.
Yeah.
So I can't just come and be like, I know better. We're going to sell cool wines and give them away because we're on. No, I got to make it profitable as well. So finding that balance is where I think a good beverage professional comes in, both bars and wine as well. The bar's doing very well, very creative as well. We have some great talented bartenders. We have Orion Berg and Tiffany Debian, which Tiffany is more involved with Ariana. Orion is more at the bar at Harbour. Both very creative, shaking things up.
That's a good pun, shaking things up.
Shaking things up, pun intended, unintentionally. Bourbon for them is their Napa Cab, right? It's a lot of people want bourbon, but there is less and less. Luckily, we bought pallets of it before it shut down, and we're slowly running out of it. We still got some, but they're going to start finding alternatives, and that's their battle right now.
Diving into that balance, is there anything, maybe an example that you could share more concretely? Because must be a blast and fun being given a big check and told to build an incredible wine list. But obviously for that to be sustainable, as you mentioned, it needs to be profitable.
Yep.
At the same time, building out a new wine list from almost scratch is a big investment that does take time. Yeah. How do you think about making that profit, ensuring that profitability? Were there certain metrics that were given like from the start, or is there internal ones that you like to use as rule of thumbs? Like, how do you think about making sure that it's a profitable program?
We had some theoretical targets. When you open a restaurant, you have an idea of what you want, but as things shapes up, that target moves and adapts.
Yeah.
It would be, was it too ambitious? Was it not ambitious enough? The approach that I like to think is not getting hung up so much on the percentage for COGS, for the cost of goods sold. People who says we need that much COGS at the end of the month. It is an indicator. It's kind of weight on a person. So I want to weight this much. Yeah, but you're going to lose fat, gain muscle. It's kind of not the same thing. So if I can weigh a little bit more, but be leaner, it's better in the end. So the idea that we had is let's create an environment where people feel comfortable spending. When the prices encourage, maybe we can take 2 bottles. We don't upsell that much really, unless the guest is kind of open to it. But I ask all my tables, how much are you going to spend tonight? And says, oh, we want to spend 200 on a bottle. Maybe the bottle they want is 150. No problem with that, because they'll walk away hopefully thinking, I thought it was going to cost us more and it's not so bad. That's all I want from a person. That's all I want from a restaurant these days, is walk away thinking, Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
There's no bargains anymore. But every time I go out, I feel it's so expensive.
Yeah.
So I think if we can at least offer them a great experience and they walk away thinking good value, not cheap, but good value, they'll come back. And that repeated business is where you get your margin. So you don't have to sell expensive bottles. You just have to have people come back over and over. And hopefully people who do love to drink expensive bottles, they don't just go in anywhere and order, yeah, I'll take your Petrus or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But you got to feel that you have a team that if I order a nice wine, I know that the wine's going to be in good storage condition, that is going to be served properly, that the sommelier interaction will be interesting. It's like buying a car. If you go buy a Mercedes, you could buy it online, but it's much more fun to go to the dealership and have the interaction with the foreperson, and it creates that as well. And some people are looking for that. They want the sums to come to the table. These are the few options I was thinking about. What do you think? We'll talk about the vintage, and they show, okay, I'm in good hands. If I do decide to splurge, it's going to be good. And we feel it sometimes. You get to a table and they ask you a couple, not easy, like a couple softball questions just to say you're going to bullshit them, and I have no problem saying sometimes, what do you think of that vintage? I'll be like, I'm not really familiar with that vintage, unfortunately, but where I can speak of the producer or whatever. You don't lie to the guests because sometimes they know more than you on certain things. Maybe they've been to the winery. Maybe they own the winery and it's the winemaker you don't even know.
Yeah.
Don't lie to a table, and that way you gain their confidence and they'll feel confident to come and spend with you. And that way you don't need to overcharge for a person to come once, pay too much and never come back. You want them to come back over and over.
Yeah. To the other point you mentioned about like the margin on the wine or cost of goods sold, like you don't take cost of goods to the bank, you take dollars.
100%. And maybe some other professionals will disagree with me, but we tend to associate too much cost to the labor of a somm, but really the somms are on the floor. We're lucky we have a team of 7 somms, so we can cover a lot of grounds, but also with the space we have to. But if a table does 1 bottle for $300 or 2 bottles for $150, it's not costing us much more. Sure, I'll have to switch the glasses and the somm will be at the table a little bit more, but for me, it shows that the guests are enjoying themselves, no matter the price range. And I'd rather sell multiple bottles at a single table, or they come every other week.
Yeah.
That's fine. Like, I don't need to sell those high-ticket items, and that's why I'm not a big fan of just looking at how much you need to make and then adapting your prices based on that. There's also a perceived value for wine, like especially if you're looking at collectors and like first growth Bordeaux's or Sassicaillas. The people who drink these wines know how much they're worth. They probably have them at home.
Yeah.
So it cannot be highway robbery. Because also, personally, I do the same thing. I'll open a wine list anywhere I go. It can be at a small bar, wherever. I'll look at their by the glass, and usually these wines, because they're usually widely available, and I'll see how much they sell a glass for it. And I'll be like, okay, they're robbing us, or cool, they're being honest. And that will give me kind of an idea of the experience, because I might not know how much the food is worth when they buy it, but I can judge from the wine list and the beverage lists. If they're being honest there, I will assume they're being honest.
On that point, do you think about markups differently in different parts of the list?
100%. Novelty wines usually for me are the best value, because these are wines that I know nobody will ever cold order. Obscure stuff that would probably never move otherwise unless the somm bring to the table. And I want to have an experience with the guests. So if that experience can also come at a good value, then I think it's a double win. It's, hey, look, I know you love Pinot Grigios, but I got this. I think it's a funny example, but we have this Koshu for $75 on the list. You never heard of the Prefecture of Mount Fuji, and then you bring that table. It was like, look, it's the same price you're expecting for, but it's something new. Guests are like, amazing, cool. I had an experience yesterday. A guest comes in, it's the birthday of the wife or the girlfriend, and they didn't want to drink too much. So they order a half bottle of a big house champagne. And I felt that they were like, I don't know, there was an energy with them that I feel like, no, these guys like good stuff. Not that the big house champagne was not good, but it was a little bit generic choice. So I brought the bottle they ordered, but at the same time, I brought a 750 of a cool grower champagne. I'm like, but this is also the same price. You have twice as much volume. You don't have to drink all of it, but this is really cool. And this is allocated. I had only like 12 bottles a year, and it's the same price as your half bottle. Would you like to try it? And they're like, yes, please, of course. And they're like, amazing. And then like, cool, I never heard that producer tell me about it. And then, okay, we talk about it. And that just right there was very fun.
Yeah, that sounds like great hospitality.
Yeah, of course, that's taking the initiative, going back to what I was talking about, is like making them feel seen. Because otherwise, if I just go to the table, they point to a bottle and I bring the bottle to the table, you're not a somm. You're just carrying a bottle. It's not what we're here for. We're for expert. But again, in those margins, that brewer champagne probably has a better value margin than the Big Al champagne, because I know the Big Al champagne, we'll call it Veuve and Moet. I don't ever need to recommend it. People will buy it. But my Beverage, a lot of people don't know him, so I'm not going to charge as much because I want people to experience them. But that eventually, and now we're starting to see these regulars that come back and be like, what was the one we had last time? That was good. I'm like, cool, perfect. Now they're hooked.
Yeah.
And then that's what I want to see. Maybe it's a selfish decision of I want people to discover producers that I love, but at the same time, I wanted to do it not at the expense of them paying more. I want them to also be like, and it's also a great value.
Yeah, I always tell non-wine friends that when they're out and they see something really weird on a wine list, get that, because the somm had every reason not to buy it, but it was so good that they bought it and put it on their list that it's probably worth trying.
And they're probably enthusiastic. There's some wine, some bottles, then if I hear one of my staff will sell that bottle, I might swing by the table and be like, I'm so excited you ordered this. I bought this like a year ago, super obscure. I picked this for that reason. And guests are like, oh, amazing, cool. They make feel like they made a right choice.
Yeah.
And that these are fun moments. And yeah, we just want to have fun. People want to have fun. We're in the fun business.
All right, let's switch gears entirely.
Go for it.
You, last year, I think it was around this time, right? You won the Best Ontario Somm competition.
Shit, it's been a year already? Yes.
Yeah. What do you think about those kind of competitions? What motivated you to enter? What was your experience competing? Would you recommend that other somms go for those kind of experiences?
So I'm from Quebec. Quebec has a very strong competition scene. Some of the guys that I look up to a lot in Quebec are phenomenal competition guys, and they all went very far. Hugo Duchesne went to Best of America, ended up second. Joris Garcia, which I had the pleasure to meet in a couple like certification stuff, won Best of Canada, won Best of America, is going to represent Canada at Worlds in Lisbon this year. Competition is such a fun way of outreaching what we're doing. But what got me into competition first and foremost is all I want right now is the MS. Like I want my Master Sommelier title. That's what I've been working towards for a long time. And I was getting very nervous. I'm very comfortable on the floor, but I'm bad at role playing. Yeah. When it comes to role playing a table with very established sommelier at the table, and they ask me a question that I know the answer, and I got to do the thing, everybody's looking at you and taking notes. I get nervous. I get out of breath. I sweat. Anybody who saw my performance of Best of Ontario, I was not charming. I was like talking so fast, I would get winded. Like it was not a gracious performance. That is what I'm working on I'm going to go for Best of Canada this year. And that's what I've been working on is the pacing of the way I'm talking, my breathing, taking breaks, slowing things down. Yeah. And these are things that came from looking at the way I was performing. But just going back, I got into competition because I needed to expose myself to stressful situation. I wanted to do more of that because if you don't win it, that's it. Like great. Life goes on. You still get your job. Like there's not much riding on it.
Yeah, but all your peers, I was there. Everyone's going to watch you not win it. And I feel like that could be pretty tough or scary too.
It is scary because you're very vulnerable on stage. I'm not an actor. I'm not somebody who has a theater background. I was in theater in high school, but I was in the IT department. I was like making like the decor and stuff like that. I was not on stage. So it was a new experience for me. And then I think a lot of people have a massive imposter syndrome. And you always think, I'm going to go do that competition. Everybody's going to see how much of a failure I am and be like, how does this guy get a job he has? You start aspiring like that, but it's never the case. Competition, it's its own thing. So I got into competition to test myself. The first year I did it, it was against Christophe, Justin, and I think Nathan Hopper. And I finished third, I think. And I was like, whoa, that sucked. That sucked losing. Of course, it sucks on losing. Nobody's like, I just lost. No big deal. It always sucks, but it was such a good experience. And getting on stage was at Liberty Grand, big room, a lot of people having dinner at the same time. It was like a crazy experience. Now I came back a bit more prepared because now I know what it was like. And luckily, I just won, I think by a hair over, it was Matt Landry, who was their first runner-up, which, again, when I know it was against Matt Landry, I have tremendous respect for this man. He's one part away from his MS. He's a very established, very well-seasoned sommelier. So I'm like, there's no way I'm going to win this. I'm going to do my best and just hope for the best. And by a hair, I think I win, which I was like, oh my God, how? But anyways, it's very humbling. It's very fun. And then, you just network with people through that. It brings you closer to people you compete with. You've been in the trenches with them and it's fun. So really into competing, I think much like studying theory for the MS, it forces you to reevaluate, how am I opening those bottles? How fast am I getting the wine in the glasses? You start thinking things that you take for granted every day. You start reevaluating, is there a more efficient way I can be doing it? One of the exercises I had to do at the Best Sommelier of Ontario last year was my first table. They said, I think you had 2 minutes to open a sparkling wine, which is pretty fast. You take the consultation, get the bottle, get it chilled, serve it. And the table was a mess. There was like crumbled paper and the water glasses were empty. So before I even take the order, I'm just like, introduce myself, clean the table, get the wine glasses, did the consult. And by the time I showed up with the bottle, time was up. So I'm like, I didn't serve the wine. That was my first exercise. I'm like, okay, that's it. I lost the points. I'm not going to win this. And looking back, I actually got a lot of points for that because we're more than just pouring beverage in the glasses. We're here to take care of the table. And I didn't know that they allowed quite a substantial amount of points for that part. It seems like I didn't ever confirm, but I figure. So it was fun to recheck how you do things. The competition is good for that. And it fines tunes you a little bit. Yeah, I encourage people to look into competition. The next Best Sommelier of Ontario will be later this year. It should be also a great competition. And we're going to try to get a couple of international competitors to come in and talk to people to be like, this is how I prepare. This is what's fun. This is the purpose of competition. And to try to get more sumps to do it. I think it's fun. But I think there's a negative connotation in this term that the name competition means you win over somebody else. Where really, you're not competing. You're competing against each other for the position, but you're not competing against each other as skills because there's nothing I can do that would hinder what you're doing or vice versa. You just do your best. It's you against you, and it's the highest score wins.
To that point, didn't you practice ahead of the competition with your other competitors?
So that's what I loved about, I don't know if they did it in Montreal, but in Toronto, the 2 times that I did a competition, as soon as they announced the finalists, we'd started a WhatsApp group chat and be like, all right, guys, let's train together. Let's give the best show to everyone. And there was no holding the cards close to your chest. It was just, let's get together. Let's find each other's strength and help the others. And let's make the competition as tight as possible. Because, yeah, I guess we didn't want, if one person was lacking in, I don't know, their sparkling service is not great for whatever. It's not the case, but I was thinking of something, whatever. You don't want to be like, okay, perfect. He sucks at this. I'm going to beat him at that. It was never that. It was like, hey, you need to work on this. We'll do a clinic for you for that. It was fun. Very positive. You show up. There's no animosity. It's just, I remember even we were in the waiting room before the competition asking each other questions. Okay, what was the year of this? What is the grape in that? Just making sure everybody was sharp. Don't forget, wipe this thing when you do that. Like it was fun.
Do you think it's related to what your goals were in the sense like your goal was not just to win that contest, it's to become an MS. And I would imagine training with that group, you're all going to be better than you would be if you didn't do that. It'll be harder to beat them because they'll be better than they would have been, but then you'll also be better than you would have been. And so that's puts you closer to that MS goal.
100%.
Yeah.
And also I believe that in the world of wine, first of all, knowledge is not linear. You have some people that might have a title, but I might know more about certain regions or wines than them. It's all about, it's such a weird spectrum of knowledge and experiences. And you only win by being around people that complete you. Yeah. And yeah, you don't want to crush anybody else. You want to get the most of it. It's a crazy opportunity to be working out with people that are also trying to get better themselves. So why would you not want to exploit that?
100%. Yeah. I think it's just very small-minded when some people are like trying to fight over a small pie rather than just make everything bigger and everyone better.
And nobody's career or perception of skills have been seen as negatively if they don't win. I know when I lost my first year, I didn't felt lesser of a sommelier. I didn't go into work the next day thinking I don't deserve my job. It was just, it would have been nice to win. And you can't put yourself like under pressure. Like you think that those who go on stage at Best Sommelier of the World, and if they don't win and they place third, they go home defeated. Like, of course they want to win the Best Sommelier of the World, but you're still in the conversation. Just the fact that you're in the competition shows that you're part of the peak of the mountain who wants to improve and make a show. And also, we don't talk about this, but it's a great way of showing the world what we do. And then I have guests, not that many to be honest, because not a lot of non-industry people look at those competition, but I have some guests who come to the restaurant and say, oh, aren't you guy who won the competition? I'm like, yes, great. That's the first attraction at the table. And they're like, oh my God, we're Gucci tonight. We're going to have some fun. It's the same thing as if a chef goes on Master Chef and doesn't matter if you win or not. Like, oh, you were in that competition. Amazing. You're obviously looking into bettering your skills. And you don't have to be doing competition to be doing that. I'm not saying that. I just think that it's a great signal.
100%.
That's a very positive thing. I think there's much more positive and very little negative of at least throwing your hat in the ring. And it doesn't matter if you're a junior som, a well-seasoned som. Some people perform very well in competition. Some others are just not made for it, which is fine. It's a different format. It's a different circuit. And some people, I've talked to younger soms in the city, which I'm like, hey, you should apply for the best sommelier competition in Ontario. Oh no, I'm not going to do it because these guys probably will do it. I'm like, you might just win and you won't know until you try.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, it can be like having a specific event on a specific day is what focuses studying and making yourself better. So the worst case scenario is you just learn a whole lot more about what you're passionate about already.
You're going to get worse.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I know the deadline is massive. For me, the fact that I have a deadline that I know in 102 days, I have a theory exam in front of my peers is the best pressure I can get to. Like this morning, I was late for this podcast because I was stuck studying Washington at home.
Yeah.
And I get a text like, hey, are you on your way? And I was like, fuck. Like it puts that pressure on me. I would never be studying Washington at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday if I didn't have an exam about it.
Yeah. On that point, when was it that you decided that the MS would be a goal? You mentioned you passed the advance on your first try unexpectedly, and then people started saying that was your goal. Is that when it became a goal for you? Had it been a goal earlier?
So it's funny because I think a lot of people share the same thing that I went through is, first of all, usually the certified is your first step. You do the intro, you realize it's a baby walk. So you're like, okay, I'm going to do certified. That's the one exam where you have a service, you have a tasting, right? This is what people know of wine certification. So once you get your certified, I'm like, I'm certified now. I don't need much more. Everything else is fancy, but I don't need it. And then you go a couple months and then you're like, what if I tried? You just got to get curious. You get a bit ambitious. You're like, I've done it. What about the next level? And then you start dabbing about it. And then you meet other people who want to do it. You pump each other. You're like, oh, I'm going to do this. And then I went in thinking, look, I'll do my advance. If you look at the proportion of people who have certified advance, I'm like, being advanced, you're in like the top, I don't know, 1%, whatever it is of certification pins, let's call it this way, whatever that's worth. And I'd be like, oh my God, I'll be in that peak. I don't need the masters. The masters is ludicrous. I don't need that. And then you pass your advance and you're like, the master's right there. Like, why wouldn't I try? And then you try it and you're like, all right, that's what I'm going to do for the next 20 years. And now I'm not going to quit.
What will it mean to you if you pass that exam?
I still wonder that question. It's a personal quest first and foremost. My vision, and I hope the court is not going to be disappointed with my answer, is having the pin today is not what it used to mean, what it used to mean maybe 10, 20, 30 years ago. Once upon a time, getting that MS pin, your phone would ring all the time to get invited to all these opportunities. Now, first of all, it's a great personal achievement, but you still really got to sing for your supper. You still really got to show your skills. The pin is not enough anymore. Usually you're pretty skilled by then because you've put in the work. It's a very hard exam for a reason, is that you got to know everything about everything. So usually you can defend your stance pretty much. But yeah, now if you get a pin, I think that just people might take the meeting. People might look at your resume right away. Oh my God, he's got a pin. Let's look into this guy. But it's not automatically overnight success and money and travel. I think you still got to put in a lot of work. So I'm not counting on the pin to be like, oh, if I can get the pin, I'm set. No, I think when you get the pin, the real work starts. Yeah. But personally, I've never been good in school. I never really studied. I never opened the books. I always pass with a passing grade and satisfied with it. And now I'm like, I've put too much time into this and I'm generally studying and trying to learn. I'm not going to stop. Like I want that. It's a personal Everest. Once you climb Mount Everest, you're the only one that climbed it, and you're going to have the memory of all the hardship that came to climb it. And sure, you might have a photo to show the world, but they won't know what it feels like when you reach it. And I want to know, how does it feel when they're going to sit me in that room and they says, yeah, you're done, you're free. Go do the work you want to do and go work. You can't go in thinking that pin will be my salvation for success, money, whatever. You want success and money, you can achieve it by doing something that has nothing to do with the pin. Just hard work is hard work. But the pin will help definitely. If I start a restaurant tomorrow, or if I go work in a restaurant, the media can say, hey, this new restaurant has a MS on their team. That helps tremendously to the brand. Yeah, it brings set of eyes on whatever you're doing, but you still got to do the work.
Yeah, it's not like you're just gonna get given a really cushy job working for Veuve, and then that's the end.
Yeah, I think it's been glamorized over the years of, oh, once you get a pin, you're going to cruise. You're just going to taste wine with like crazy winemakers and get paid a lot of money for it. I'm not saying that it's never going to happen, but it's not a free ride. You're going to have to do a lot of work to prove to people why you're worth that pin.
100%.
You have to defend your position over and over.
Yeah. So on the topic of still having to put in the work, besides your studies and besides being a beverage director here, you also have your own agency, Pelican.
That's right.
Would you like to share when you started that, why you started the agency, and what that's all about?
So it was back in my first year at Pompette. Max and Jonathan, the owners, coming from France, had a lot of producers that they loved, that they knew, especially Alsace because they're Alsatians. And they were bummed, it's not on the market. I would love to have these wines. And coming from Quebec, I used to run an agency over there that did not do very well. But I did learn a lot about how the SKU work, which is not quite how the LCBO works, but just the government system worked. So we had kind of conversations over drinks one day, and they were like, well, it would be fun to get these producers in, but we have no idea how to run an agency. I'm like, I don't know any producers in France, but I've run an agency. Yeah. So we went, why don't we look into what does it take to start an agency? We pulled the money together. We started a company with always low ambition. Just let's keep it fun. Let's sign only the producers that we truly love, bring in quantities that are easy to move, no pressure. We'll never be rich out of it, but it's going to be fun. And hey, if we can get a trip to France once a year out of it, amazing. Yeah. And that's how we've been cruising it. We have probably 17 producers, all French from most regions of France, very spread out, try not cannibalize the region, just keep it simple and people that we really appreciate and truly love the wines.
And then how much time are you able to devote to it?
It fluctuates. I would say that we're in a privileged situation where we don't outreach much to new clients. I would definitely love to sell to more restaurants, but I don't go out and taste that much. A lot of our producers, the clients that we work with, knows them. They know that the wines are good and the value is there. So it's a lot of LCBO work. That's the bulk of my time, a couple hours a week for sure, just working through the lab and all the PO and stuff like that. And then, just keeping up with my clients and letting them know when their wines are in and organizing. I don't get that much time really to devote to it. Not that I don't want to, it's just balancing everything is tough.
Yeah, you're a very busy man.
Fortunately, yes. I wish I could dedicate more time, but the reality is, and as you might know, it's a very hard business.
It's challenging. I think even just the amount of paperwork involved that the LCBO does, or how they're trying to currently destroy it and take away the licensee discount.
That was just, I'm not going to talk the LCBO. The LCBO does a lot of great things in certain ways, but they're not making it easy for the more humble agencies.
No, they're not. Shifting gears again to some general questions. How would you say your personal taste has evolved since you first started getting into wine and over the years?
I don't know if I'm just getting cheaper, but I'm not drinking. There's some phenomenal wines that are very expensive that I do enjoy drinking. Yesterday, I'm not going to brag about the bottles we drink, but we had a little sommelier get together yesterday and we opened we call it the unicorn nights, where we open only wines that we call unicorns. The wines were phenomenal and these are great, but reality is, I'm not buying expensive wines personally anymore. I used to collect a couple bottles and buy things that are really cool and long live. And luckily I still got some at home, but now I'm looking for those wines that are just so good. And that you sometimes question how is this so affordable? Yeah. Like $40 to $50 a bottle, you can find phenomenal wines. And I feel that's where my mind is right now, is finding honest wines that are made very well, that from one sip, I want to drink the whole bottle. And it's not going to, the conversation of oh, this one was so expensive. It's not even on the table. And I just paid this much for it. And I want to be happy. Oh my God, what a deal. Yeah. And this is phenomenal. Then of course I got specific taste. I got into wine through Spanish wines. Eric, who got me into wine, it all started with a bottle of Navarra Grenache called El Chaparral from Vegas and Doha. Phenomenal wine, but very affordable. And I love those big reds. And then I moved on and discovered, of course, champagne, and I drink a bit of everything. Burgundies, I've always loved Burgundies. The problem is they're so expensive now. I've spent quite a bit of time in Germany and Austria, so Germany and Austria is still on my radar. But now my favorite region, I would say, is Jura. I love the wines from Jura. I come from, most of my extended family works in agricultural land. And I feel there's something agricultural about Jura that I really love, the humility of the region. Now they're getting a little bit more cool. But Jura historically was never a prestigious region. It was dairies and kind of rustic wines, dirty wines almost.
It's a cheese place, right?
Yeah, it's a cheese place to the point that some wines smells like cheese. And I love them. And it's fondue and Jura and Savagnin. And I'm like, I love this stuff. I like more raw styles of wines. Whatever we want to call it, natural or not, that's besides the point. I just like that kind of, a little bit unfiltered, easy drinking, honest, acidity. I like refreshing. I love Riesling. I love champagne, refreshing. I love bubbles from all around the world. I'm a big British bubble fan. When I was in London, every meal we had a glass or a bottle of British bubbles. I love them.
Are they affordable over on this side of the ocean?
They're all expensive.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, the British, I think the land costs a lot of money. That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
Also, they're on a good kick right now. A lot of champagne houses, they don't say it, but they're buying land in Kent and in Sussex. And the thing is developing. I think we're going to see more British bottles in the future with familiar names. But they're expensive. They're champagne prices, but I still love them.
Desert island wine. You're going to drink one style of wine, one grape for the rest of your life.
I'm bringing champagne. I have to pick one or one per style, like one bubble, one white, one red.
I'll get one.
There you go. So for bubbles, champagne. Champagne is king. As much as I love what's going on in Spain right now and the British bubbles, champagne is the benchmark. It's the standard. For whites, you got to give it up to German Rieslings. There is no bottom there's no limit how much I can drink German Rieslings. Just a touch of sugar. Yeah, for Mosel, personally. And then for reds,
Schloss Wohlreds. You got some good GG from me.
great Schloss Wohlreds that you bring at great prices with a bit of years on them. Phenomenal wines. And then for reds, I'm going to do Spanish Grenache. That's where I started. I think Jason from Côte Séchal brings in all the Commando G and Daniel Landy stuff. And they're the perfect mix of Burgundy soul with a Spanish flair. And these wines are such a hit here. When you bring them to the table, people, never anybody went, it's okay. They always go, what is that? They're getting a little pricier. I think the price is still fair, but I can see in the future this become very premium. Sierra Gredos and Tridana and all that kind of region of central Spain. I can see it become a very premium region in the future because they're doing very well right now.
Yeah.
But I think I would drink out my desert island.
I love that. Okay. Questions. How do you keep wine fun? It is your job.
Yes.
And then on top of that, when it's not your job, it's your second job. And then when it's not your second job, it's the thing you're studying. So how amongst all of that pressure for it to maybe feel a little bit tough and like a job, how do you keep it fun?
For me, it's reminding me what excited me in the first place. And for me, I love food. I was always eating as a kid. I ate too much snacks. And I was not from a foodie family, but we always had food on the table and stuff. And then when I started going out to restaurant, the restaurant industry is intoxicatingly fun industry. But I got to remind myself of what wine that excites me is it reminds me a lot of the small town I grew up from. I grew up on apple orchards. So the agricultural side of it, sometimes I'll watch YouTube videos of like just farmers talking about how they do things and stuff. It's fun to bring it back to the roots. For me, it's fun. I wouldn't mind one day, maybe have a little agricultural project or work on one for a period of time. That romantic idea of agriculture for me is a driving factor. Bring it back out, remove the fuss and the world of suits and stemware. That's why I love going to France. I'm sure other places in the world like that. Germany was a bit like that as well, where you meet with very high-end winemakers and there's a piece of cheese and like some craft paper with a bottle and you're drinking out of a stemless glass. And it's just, so this is a Premier Cru that sells on your market for $700 and you're just like, this is the best fucking wine I ever had. It's much more humble that we make it. And then we take this agricultural product and make it something fancy. So for me, it's removing the noise, removing the bells and whistles, bringing it back to what it is and honest. And it's enjoying wine with other people. The best bottle of wine you'll ever had will not be the wine itself. It'll be the company where you're at. It could be a cheap bottle of Muscadet in the Loire Valley, but you're with the love of your life, eating the best oysters in the world and the breeze of the waters right there. And you're like, this is phenomenal. That's a €2 bottle of wine. So sometimes I'll be in a lull and I'll just call up a couple friends and be like, why don't we cook and open a few bottles? And it doesn't have to be expensive bottles, but bring it back down to why are we doing this in the first place? Because this is fun. It's around the table, and it's bringing it back to restaurants around the table, the people. That was a lot of words, but I think that's how I would describe it.
Yeah. It's all about connection,
Yeah.
both the connection with who you're sharing it with, and then the connection back to that agricultural land where it came from.
Yeah. I love that we work in an industry where there is a professional relationship by telling somebody we should go for drinks.
Yeah.
We can still do that. No accountants can do that. No accountants look at other accountants, be like, or their clients, be like, we should go for drinks. Be like, oh, sure, that's weird. Whereas for us, it's like, yeah, certain reps or clients, sometimes I'm like, oh, we should get drinks. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And you create a bond like that, and it's fun.
What advice would you give to younger sommeliers and beverage professionals? What do you think is an important thing to focus on early in your career?
I'll give the advice that I still brewing over myself. If I had the younger myself, I would say travel more. If you speak English and you work in whatever, back of the house, front of the house, you can work anywhere in the world. Travel more. I've said no to international opportunities that I'm to this day be like, I should have taken it. I said no to I said no to a unpaid opportunity at Noma the year they became the best restaurant in the world. And back then I was like, in the kitchen. And back then I was like, no, I'm not going to go work 4 months for you full-time unpaid in Copenhagen. And now looking back, like I should have, this is not financial and good advice. It's just personal advice. I should have put everything on a credit card or asked my parents for a loan or something and go get that experience, meet people. I think that the little travel that I did brought me so much. I wish I did more of it. Travel the world, go to weird places. Don't go where everybody else is going. If everybody else is going to work in Copenhagen, then go somewhere else. Go in Andalusia, go to Japan, go to whatever calls you. Then you think that's really cool. Go there. Definitely travel. Again, easy to say. Don't chase the money early on. The money will come. People who chase the money early on, they stay at that level. It's actually in Gordon Ramsay's biography that he gives that advice. I remember clearly, and for the longest time, he was broke. And now he's one of the most successful. I know it's a kind of Cinderella story, but chase experiences, chase knowledge, and then at some point things will just click financially.
Yeah.
And again, easy to say, things are very expensive these days. Everybody's broke. If you're going to be broke anyways, at least get a good experience. I guess that's not good advice, but that's the advice I'm giving.
I think both of those things are great advice. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
I think we live and work in one of the most dynamic industry in the world. We see every night people who come in for dinner and they're excited to see us. They're excited to talk to us. And we should never take that for granted. There are some people who work 50, 60 hours a week in an office just so they can go out on Friday. We get to be in a restaurant 50, 60 hours a week. This is exciting. This is fun. And let's never lose sight of that.
I love that. It's a great place to end. Thank you so much for your time, Christian.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for listening. Until next time, cheers.